fake trial is currently taking place to try and illegally remove my name from the ballot. I often say that 2024 will be the most important election in the history of our country. The reason for that and that statement is that our country is being destroyed by people who have no idea what they're doing, or even worse, they may very well have an idea. They may hate our country and they may want to see it destroyed. But it may also be the last election we ever have. If this election doesn't work, if this election is rigged and stolen, if bad things happen, our country will not survive. If Crooked Joe and the Democrats get away with removing my name from the ballot, then there will never be a free election in America again. We will have become a dictatorship where your president is chosen for you. You will no longer have a vote, or certainly won't have a meaningful vote. And you could say, frankly, that that has already begun.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of Journey to Harmony. I'm your host, Richard Harmon. Today we want to talk about the removing of Donald Trump that has just happened at the Colorado Supreme Court. So Donald Trump has been in the court battles whether or not he would have his name remaining on the ballot or whether it would not, and he has officially been removed by the Colorado Supreme Court. The article states that a majority of the courts hold that Donald Trump is disqualified from holding the office of president under Section 3 of the 14th Amendment of the United States Constitution. The Colorado ruling said because he is disqualified, it would be a wrongful act under the election code for the Colorado Secretary of State to list him as a candidate on the presidential primary ballot. The court puts the decision on hold. This is a very interesting and unprecedented decision overall. Many people are recognizing that this is something that has never happened, and Donald Trump is facing a lot of lawsuits, not just here in Colorado, but also in Arizona, also in Michigan, and a few other states as well. It says that the high court decision reverses a lower court ruling that said Donald Trump had engaged in insurrection by inciting a riot on January 6th of 2021, but that presidents are not subject to Section 3 of the amendment because they are not an officer of the United States. The state Supreme Court agreed that Donald Trump had engaged in insurrection, but rejected the lower court's finding that the president is not an officer of the country that elected him. Trump has called the efforts to keep him off the ballot nonsense and election interference. Courts have ruled against similar efforts to get Donald Trump banned from the ballot in Arizona, Michigan, and Minnesota. Plaintiffs challenging Trump's eligibility in Minnesota filed an appeal to the state's high court on Monday. So how exactly does this play out now? Now that there is precedence that has been done, we can expect this to happen in many other states as well. As I said, there, Arizona, Michigan, and Minnesota are also lined up for the chance to do this as well. And now that there's a precedence, they will likely file as well. From this, Donald Trump does have the opportunity to appeal this decision. He'll be able to see him in court. There's an option, I believe, until January 5th that he has for this to be stayed. So we can expect that it's going to be taken before the Supreme Court and rather quickly. Let me go ahead and play a video here. We'll watch a little bit of this, come back and talk about it just after that. Thank you.
Some breaking news, everybody, just into us in the last couple of minutes. The Colorado Supreme Court banning former President Trump from the state's ballot, saying he is ineligible to hold the office of the presidency under the Constitution's insurrection clause. The case is now likely to go to the U.S. Supreme Court. NBC's Sahil Kapoor is following this for us. Sahil, if you will, walk us through this ruling first.
Yeah, it's an absolutely extraordinary ruling, Yasmin, by the Colorado Supreme Court. It says, quote, a majority of the court holds that President Trump is disqualified from holding the office of president under Section 3 of the 14th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution. Specifically, Section 3 says no officers of the country can have engaged in insurrection. The court essentially found that Trump engaged in insurrection and reversed a lower court ruling that presidents are not subject to Section 3 of the 14th Amendment, saying they are subject to Section 3 of the 14th Amendment. I cannot think of any precedent to this for any major presidential candidate in modern times, certainly not one who is marching to the nomination of his party, dominating the field at this moment. This might have some sort of an impact on that Republican primary field with the Iowa caucuses just about a month or so away.
Yeah, I want to talk a little bit more about that, if you will. So he'll draw on that moment for me, if you will, because as we're looking at the primary beginning in just about a few weeks or so, what are we looking at here if the former president cannot be on the ballot in Colorado?
We'll firstly wait to see how his rivals respond. It's unclear whether they will see this as essentially target practice to argue that Donald Trump should not be the nominee of his party if he's subject to these kinds of serious challenges. You know, it's not that difficult to imagine a rival saying, don't nominate someone who is found to have been to have engaged in insurrection by a state Supreme Court. Now, Colorado is not exactly a competitive state at this point. It's widely expected to be in the Democratic column, whoever the two candidates are, but there are other challenges happening in other states. They have not been successful so far, at least, but in Arizona, in Michigan, and in Minnesota, which are more competitive states, the challenges have been issued. Could potentially Donald Trump be disqualified from the ballot in a swing state? That would be a massive disadvantage to Republicans. Now, on the other hand, Donald Trump himself has argued that this is a nonsense and election interference lawsuit. In some cases where Donald Trump has been found to be in legal jeopardy, his rivals have simply rushed to his defense, and it's only helped him in the Republican primary. So there are a lot about the politics of this that have yet to shake out.
Yeah, the message and the precedent here is what I'm really focusing in on here. Sahil, if you will, stand by for me. Want to bring in Danny Savalas to talk more about this. This is incredible, this decision here. Danny, if you will, walk us through kind of your reaction first in hearing this.
I will walk you through up to page 2, because that's where I've gotten so far, as this is just breaking. But no, I have the general gist. And the gist is this, is that under Colorado's election code, because Donald Trump was concluded after a 5-day trial to have engaged by clear and convincing evidence in an insurrection, he is therefore barred by the Constitution from being on the ballot under Colorado law. So the important question is going to be, how precedential is this? Well, outside of Colorado, not very. This is a Colorado state court decision. And in addition, it's interpreting not just the federal constitution, but also how that affects Colorado's own election laws. So while it is certainly what we call persuasive authority for other jurisdictions, other states, outside of Colorado, it is going to be cabined to this jurisdiction. But make no mistake about it, it is a signal to many other courts, a blueprint, if you will, for them to take a look at their own election codes, see how similar they are, and see if this acts as a similar bar.
Just getting that breaking news about the Colorado State Supreme Court saying, based on the 14th Amendment and former President Trump's actions during January 6th, that he is not allowed to be on the ballot in Colorado. Just receiving word from the Trump campaign, a reaction to this ruling. Quote, unsurprisingly, the all-Democrat appointed Colorado Supreme Court has ruled against President Trump, supporting a Soros-funded left-wing group's scheme to interfere in an election on behalf of crooked Joe Biden by removing President Trump's name from the ballot and eliminating the rights of Colorado voters to vote for the candidate of their choice. Democrat Party leaders are in a state of paranoia over the growing dominant lead President Trump has amassed in the polls. They've lost faith in the failed Biden presidency and are now doing everything they can to stop the American voters from throwing them out of office next November. The Colorado Supreme Court issued a completely flawed decision tonight. We will swiftly file an appeal to the United States Supreme Court and a concurrent request for a stay of this deeply undemocratic decision. We have full confidence that the Supreme Court will quickly rule in our favor and finally put an end to these un-American lawsuits. Again, that's from a Trump campaign spokesperson.
Well, that is some really breaking news right there. So with that, this is going to be an interesting time over the next 2 weeks. Normally during this time period, most people go home for the holidays and things are shut down until after the new year. But with the fact that this case is going to be taken to the Supreme Court, there's going to be a lot of people glued to their television, not just everyday people, but also senators and those who are also running for election and the office of the Republican candidate. Nikki Haley, as well as Ron DeSantis and Vivek Ramaswamy, have continued to push forward in thought that this possibly could happen. And now I'm sure that the election odds will begin to shift a bit as the thought of possibly Donald Trump not being on the election ballot for a number of states could be a big issue. While Colorado is a big deal. Colorado was expected to go to the Democratic Party, and as a result of it, that this is not as large of an issue as many have considered. But what happens now is many battleground states, this becomes a precedent that is set that they can also take on as well. So with that, Donald Trump for sure is going to appeal this. He and his team have already stated that this is something that has been done by the George Soros-backed Democratic Party, and he's planned 100% to appeal this particular decision. If it's going to be taken to the Supreme Court once again, who is led by a majority of conservative judges that many have been appointed by Donald Trump. So many people are expecting that this will be overturned in some form or fashion. And once again, in an election as important as this right now, it doesn't make a lot of sense for him not to be placed on the particular ballot. But the stranger things have happened, and this will be a continued fight, as I'm sure that they will look to keep him off the ballot by any means necessary. Donald Trump is currently facing 91 overall charges and indictments around the country, just in terms of the January 6th issue, as well as other fraud cases. And for the most part, he's kept things at bay. He's had some victories in there, as well as he's waiting on some decisions as well in some of the overall court cases. Many of those who are detractors of Donald Trump will definitely come out tomorrow and be speaking highly about why it is that they believe that he's not a good candidate to be on the ballot overall. But again, we will see. This is right now is December 19th. We have until January 5th, I believe, to see what happens as a result of the Colorado decision. And again, we will see exactly how that plays out. What are your thoughts on this? Please comment below. Like, share, and subscribe. Thank you so much for joining. Have a good day.